MediaTech Ventures Community Spotlight brought to you by Insperity, powerful HR solutions with exceptional follow-through. HR that makes a difference. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Community Spotlight. I'm your host, John Zazzaro, president, co-founder of MediaTech Ventures, here with Mr. Scott Fetters, the incredible visionary behind 2112 and the founder of the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. Glad to have you on today. How you doing, bud?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Let's hop right into it. We got a lot to cover in a very short amount of time. You have a very interesting background in that you were in the hospitality industry for a long time before kind of starting to segue into the music community of Chicago. Can you explain, how you ended up, in the hospitality industry and what kind of how you gravitated towards that and what that transition was like in working with the music sector in Chicago?
Yeah, I think there's that answer is twofold. One, as far as initially getting into hospitality, I was in school in New Orleans, and it was the best opportunity to make decent money while I was down there. I just graduated through school. I was looking at bars, restaurants, hotels as kind of the go-to for immediate job opportunities out of in school and out of school. I had a great time. I mean, I think I always felt like I learned more in the bars, in the restaurants, at the hotel, the interacting with people. In my first job, was in sales, and graduated with a business degree, and still think there was so much more opportunity to learn, so many more skills learned in that bar scene, bartending and working the front desk. As far as I think the second piece, it was a great opportunity. With the way that I built kind of everything, there was really no plan, no vision. I know it's not a good thing to say, but we this was 5 years in the making, working with Chicago Music Commission, chicagomusic.org. Those organizations were not funded. They were volunteer based. So I was working really, 9 to 5 volunteering. And I saw the best opportunity to sustain myself when I moved to Chicago was getting back involved there, working in hospitality, bartending again, working 9 to 5 with CMC, leaving the office and going to make my money. I think, taking money out of the equation in order to build relationships, the way that we brought together Chicago's creative community, going and offering to help, approaching everybody with that mentality of I legitimately want to help. I want to make things better for your company. I want to make things better for the industry, and I don't want anything in return. My success is your success.
If only all of our Chicago politicians could take note. That's a different conversation for a different time.
Yeah.
So what was it about music though? I mean, obviously you've got a background in hospitality. There's obviously a large entertainment part of that, but there's a lot in hospitality to take in consideration in order to make that whole industry thrive. How did you gravitate towards in the music in particular?
Yeah, I guess I gravitated towards music my whole life. So I, grew up playing piano. I actually took piano lessons for a few years, bought every instrument I could find and tried to teach myself. I learned pretty much everything, but I think saxophone and violin were the two that I said are just too difficult. Not worth it. But everything else, I did it in my choice of schools too. I was looking at, I was living in Indiana, and I knew I wanted to go south, but I knew that I wanted music to be part of my life. And so I looked at Tulane and USC were my top 2 choices. Visited New Orleans, fell in love with it, never even made it to the site visit at USC. Was under the impression too that, that it being a music town, there would be a lot more music education at the school. I should have done a little more research there. I went and I was playing jazz and blues in high school, and I figured I'm going to go and learn unbelievable jazz music in New Orleans, and went to their program. It was a business major, but the music classes that I took, performance classes, it was all classical music. It was a good surprise.
That's the last you think you would expect, right? That's funny.
But then Eric Cager, who you know as well now, he came to one of my classes one day in music business, and talked about the work he was doing at the Music Business Institute and Cutting Edge Music Business Conference in New Orleans. And I went and interned with him, ended up spending 3 years working directly with him, booking showcases for the conference, helping support the initiatives of MBI. And that's really what led to everything that we built here as well. I was actually in the process of replicating the model. I moved up to Chicago, saw a lot of similar issues, saw a lot of resources that artists needed, that the industry needed in Chicago, and went to Eric and said, what do you think about creating a Music Business Institute of Chicago? Was in the process of working on that and building it. And that was when I met Paul Natkin, who was the founder of the Chicago Music Commission. He said, we don't need another competing organization, just join forces with me. So joined his board. And I was doing all of that on the side. So I was working for W Hotels, doing sales, same kind of thing. It was, that was, reverse, where that was my full 9 to 5. And then I spent all of my time outside of that, on the side, building and working with Paul. And then it got to a certain point, after 5 years at the W, I saw there was enough momentum. There was an opportunity, kind of took that leap of faith, and flipped it, where I was working, 9 to 5 without a plan and volunteering, and then, figuring everything else at night and weekends.
So with, obviously, entertainment and music runs deep in your DNA, from experiences when you were younger and musician and trained and stuff, and then New Orleans. And what brought you back to Chicago? Was it family?
Yeah. So I grew up about 90 miles out in northern Indiana. I was ready to get out. I saw in New Orleans again. It was an amazing city. I think it's a difficult place to stay and build a career right out of college. Especially in certain industries. So was looking to get out in general. Talked to my brother, who was living in Chicago. He had just graduated from law school, but he was living in Chicago from University of Chicago, and I was trying to figure out where to move. And he said, "Listen, I'll fly down. I'll help you move, and I have an extra room for you to stay in, and a job." He's the one who lined up the job at the W too. So it made the decision very easy. It was close to family. It was a good job, right out of school, and didn't look anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, why would you? With 2112, so you're at the W, you're doing, the Chicago your music bit, the chicagomusic.org, Chicago Music Commission, kind of in your spare time, part-time, figuring out the lay of the land. And you saw some of these same needs is the New Orleans ecosystem. What were those needs? And how did you land on the idea of it needs to be a space?
Yeah, so it's similar, but definitely different needs. What we were addressing in New Orleans for the most part was the unbelievable talent. You walk in every street corner, every bar that you walk by, you're going to hear some of the best music you hear anywhere in the world. And those artists, predominantly they're playing on the street. They have no sense of business, no skills to go out and opportunities to go out and monetize, other or getting paid to perform. That was what we were addressing there, trying to show them that there's other opportunities to make a living and generate a sustained career without performing live. In Chicago, it was.
And this was roughly when exactly? Year? Give me the year there.
This was I was there 02 to 07.
Okay. That's an important perspective, right? Because I think we kind of still have a lot of those same issues, and it's fascinating to
Yeah.
to hear that so much work's been put into the idea of technology, accessibility, the internet, right? All these different ways to monetize and figure this stuff out. Yeah, we still haven't cracked that nut.
Yeah, and so that was our first thought in Chicago too, and we did see some of that. Just the need for business skill set building. There was a much bigger issue though, and when I joined Paul, he had before I had started working with him, he had an economic impact study commissioned, and what jumped out at me there was at the time Chicago was number 3 in almost every category that we looked at, and this was probably 15 plus years ago now. But in looking at music industry, just sheer size of music industry, it was New York, LA, Chicago in almost every category you looked at. We were number 1 in musical diversity, number 2 or 3 in almost everything else. And I was trying to figure out, why is nobody talking about Chicago, and why are people talking about? I understood obviously New York and LA, but why are people talking about Nashville, Austin, Atlanta, all of these much smaller markets, when on paper there's significantly more in Chicago? So that was the second piece of kind of defining. At first we thought it was a marketing issue. We took that data to city and state government. Said here it is on paper. We need to start telling the world about this. Realized working a year or two on some initiatives with them, it was a much bigger problem. And the problem in Chicago was primarily fragmentation in the market, that everything was so spread out throughout the neighborhoods. Nobody knew each other. Nobody was working together. There was no connectivity between, even, music industry alone, and then the much bigger picture, from music industry to other industries that could also support them. So our goal became we need to bring the industry together. And it took a long time to figure out that needed to be in a physical space. So that's really what, we started with monthly educational programming, networking events, shifted then to the launch of chicagomusic.org. We got a grant from Boeing to create an online hub, in a portal where people could come together, and you have all of Chicago's industry on one online hub. Realized both of those weren't really the answer. Getting people together for drinks once a month, networking isn't going to fix anything, anytime soon. Same thing, and the internet just wasn't the answer. There's so much to be said for physical connection and community, and so I was working on both of those projects out of Fort Knox Studios, and it just kind of clicked one day as they were expanding that we have this amazing opportunity with 160,000 square foot facility to really bring together Chicago's initially music community, and then expanding into more general creative sectors.
I don't think people understand how big 160,000 fucking square feet of space is. And, I'm always fascinated whenever you give the tour. Upon completion of the tour, everybody always gets it. That's what I love. That's what I admire about, and you could tell you worked at the W. You do a really good job of going around and giving the tour of the building. What is this 160,000 square foot behemoth? What is the largest creative hub in America, and what's under the roof, and how does it function?
Yeah, no, that's something that we always say. There's no way, and we've tried, even video walkthroughs. There's no way to really comprehend everything that we're doing without just coming and being a part of it and seeing it. But what started as initially about 10 years ago, band rehearsal facility, has grown into this what we call now comprehensive ecosystem, where we say any level of artist, any level of creative aligned business, there's a home for you somewhere in the building, and the resources to help get you to the next level. And to visualize, that's 92 band rehearsal rooms. There's 6 independently owned and operated recording studios, 30 plus music recording studios, some larger live event production companies. There's a 30-seat theater. We have the Hangar, which launched just after 2112, which is 7,000 square foot film and video production facility, where we've housed everything from small independent projects to major TV, commercial, and film projects. And then 2112 being kind of the last and really the heart of the building, the home for small businesses. It's we have currently 120 companies working out of offices, private desks, co-working. And that community, importantly, is not just about the physical space. It's about an intentional community, about the resources, education, mentorship, and access to our outside network and capital to really help support the ecosystem and help our both artists and creative businesses grow.
And a live event stage.
Yeah, God, I forget too. It's been a hell of a year.
And the podcasting room and Norm studio.
Yeah, so we have, just this year alone, huge shift, and you guys have been a great part of that. Towards shift and focus towards media, technology, innovation, content creation. So we have our in 2112 alone, we have our main stage where typically we do about 100 educational workshops a year. That's now set up also for live streaming, recording, archiving, everything that we do. We've had a great partnership we announced with Comcast to build out a content studio to support small businesses throughout the city. We have our own podcast booth. We have Norm Weiner, Rob Tovar, and Kristen Tews came together, and they're in beta testing right now. They're about to launch a 8-channel digital streaming platform focused on emerging artists and emerging business. We're about in 2112, about half of our space is set up for content creation now as well.
I think what's most fascinating is, in spite of what's going on in the world with the pandemic, you continue to flourish and prosper, where the majority of corporate real estate is dying on the vine. And as we watch the WeWorks of the world crumble under the weight of their own ignorance and bad business development and strategy. Why do you think that is?
It's a number of things. It's definitely the intentionality of the community. It's a space where people need to be together, need to be connected, and that's not just in our physical space. It's a community that supports each other. So through COVID, the companies that were hit the hardest in live entertainment, the ones that we weren't hit, some, and that was our first month or so with in March was let's sit down with every member, let's make sure everyone has a game plan and is set up to succeed. There were some that we ultimately decided it doesn't make sense to even try to pivot, and you're going to take a break for a year and a half and get into real estate or some other opportunity and come back to it when it makes sense. But everyone else who had a viable opportunity to stay in business, has and has supported each other, and has have come together virtually. There's been no mention of not being able to access the space. I think the physical space is the least important part of what we do. It's a great opportunity. It fosters that community and connectivity, but it really is the community ultimately, the people involved that make it so supportive and special.
I think that's fascinating, and it's an important point that you just mentioned. 160,000 square feet of real estate is the least important part of your business. That's wild to think about when you think about it. Yeah. But it makes sense though. And again, right, like obviously preaching to the choir, completely agree with you on all those points. And it's definitely a lot that we preach at MediaTech for sure. So what's the evolution of 2112? We know started off primarily with music, made sense with with obviously the music rehearsal studios and a lot what was going on that side of the building. And now it's kind of all forms of media, and we've got the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. Talk a little bit about the evolution of 2112 and, you know, what the next 3 years maybe looks like.
Yeah, and it's again constantly evolving. Evolving in response to the needs of the way that the building grew in general. Was 100% organic, 100% responsive to what the community asked for, or what we heard from the community. And we developed 30 to 50,000 square foot, as small as like 10 to 20. Even looking at the last little piece of raw space that we have in 2112. It's we developed it piece by piece without a master plan, and waited for feedback and community to build. So we've continued with that model. Where it's going to go, but it can change drastically as we continue to get feedback. But the vision, what we realized really is one, there is this need really everywhere. This is not unique to Chicago. There's different aspects of it, and it'll manifest differently in different markets. But the basis of what we're doing, and we had come, and again, the space, the physical space it's never about our brand or our space. It was about economic development. It was about bringing the industry together. It was about developing industry, and we saw the build out of the physical space as one opportunity to do that. But the vision still remains much larger than our physical space. So there are, there's really, we're looking at economic development, workforce development, business attraction. So we want to really, the vision that we're shifting to is creating the global model on how to develop a creative sector. And that's everything from, supporting and growing, developing talent pipelines, supporting existing business, driving new business to the region, and tying all of those initiatives together. And ultimately for us, leveraging the physical space to do that.
And then how did you ended up receiving a sizable grant from the Coleman Foundation to launch the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship? How did that come about, and how does that fit into the ecosystem?
So that came from, and important to note too, 2112 is a for-profit, but intentionally a low profit business. And we went back and forth on different business models and looked at nonprofit, looked at L3C, looked at straight LLC, and ultimately decided the best model for us, that we had a sustainable model, and we would form as a for-profit business. I actually just lost. What was the question?
How the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship came into into view.
Yeah. So we had in the development of 2112, we had a relationship with Coleman Foundation. Again, our vision in what we were doing was working towards growing the industry, and serving the community. And they saw that. And, we never took any, as 2112, never took any outside funding, no public sector funding. It was 100% organic growth. When we talked to Coleman, and, we did, I think with a team of 3, what a lot of people do with, team of 10, 20 plus, and it was a lot of work. I think there's a lot of upsides to going the for-profit, having the flexibility. The one downside is you got to find a way to pay for everything, right? And you got to grow much smaller. You have to grow organically. And so, we built everything. We worked any second we were awake. We were working on building this concept and building our community. And I think that was recognized by Coleman. We were talking to them for a few years, and they kind of watched the evolution of the space, and they came to us and said, "What do you need? So, we love what you're doing, and
Well, I'm
what do
glad
you
you
need to
asked.
what do you need to help grow?" And we said, honestly, programmatically, we could use a lot of help with expanding. There's a lot of things that we have proven to be impactful. There's a huge opportunity since we have a proven model to grow and expand. This isn't a test. It's not. We want to test out this idea for a nonprofit and give us money. We've done it, and we really need more people. We need more resources to help grow and really ultimately and most importantly to expand the resources that we provide to 2112 members outside of our community and to communities that need the help, and to the world. And so they were very generous and supported 3 years of staff. And then the goal for Center for Creative Entrepreneurship ultimately is also to become a self-sustaining nonprofit that partners with and in a way becomes the educational arm of 2112.
Nice. I beautiful vision. Absolutely. Completely on board, obviously. I want to switch focus here a little bit because we've got a handful of questions left and we're going to call it soon. If I want to build a 2112 in my city, what do those steps look like? And what's some advice you would give somebody that wanted to pursue what you've done so well?
Definitely 100%. First step is identifying the need. I think it's people have come to us replicating 2112 also, in other industries saying, how did you build what you built? And I have a similar idea that I want to do. And my first question always is, why are you doing it? And a lot of times, I think too many times the answer is, well, it worked for this industry and this industry, so I'm going to build it for this industry. Or it worked in this city, so I'm going to build it for my city, without really spending the time. We spent, again, 5 years, and I think the opposite model and the public sector funding model is we have an idea, give us the money, we build it. You build this big, beautiful, shiny facility, and then you try to figure out how to fill it. And our focus was, let's build community and wait for, how does that manifest? And ultimately, we had enough people that said that they needed physical space. We built the physical space around the community that we had developed, and I think that's first and foremost the most important. And I think the other thing is, as far as if you do identify the need, there's opportunities that we can come in, we can support. If we're not involved, we're also 100% supportive. Again, it's not about our brand, our vision. If somebody, if we go to Austin or Seattle and somebody is building a space and we see a similar need there, step one is anyone else doing it? And if somebody's doing it, let's work together rather than trying to come in and compete.
If only everybody thought the way we think, business would be so much easier.
Coming.
If you could, now, you know what? Screw that question. What were some good resources for you throughout your career so far? Whether it was books, whether it's podcasts, whether it's people that you follow, that you admire, what does that makeup look like for Scott?
I primarily people. I think more recently it's been books as well and podcasts and there's a lot of great resources out there. But I think building the vision, building the career, building me to where I am now has been the right people, in one, people that that you look up to, and then just people that it's something that we always tell students that we work with, our interns. It's amazing how most people want to help and very few people make the ask. and to go out and it's not just, hey, can you help me with this? Because it's not the right way to approach it either. But understanding, finding those people that you admire, going to them and saying, hey, how can I help? How can I be a part of what you're doing? Same thing I was mentioning with, volunteering with CMC. It's how we built that network, and really everybody that I looked up to, everybody that had a successful business, went to them and said, how can I help you? How can I support what you're doing? Or just, I want to learn more about what you're doing. And almost everybody in that scenario was willing to, if you're not pitching, if you're not asking them for something, for money, for a job, if you just say, if you're genuinely interested in what they're doing, almost anybody in the world will make time to meet with you and talk to you.
Some people are too friendly with their time. Is there no names there? Is there any book or any podcast in particular that come to mind for you, or is it just topic related, or what does that look like?
I think topic related. I mean, if going back to the heart of everything that we built, it was, and to people I looked up to, it was, in college, I read every one of Muhammad Yunus's books, on social enterprise, on how to build business. I'm looking up to and listening to how, Sal Khan, built Khan Academy. I love the story and vision there. I think in beyond that, there's a lot of great podcasts out there, and actively listen to Music Tectonics and Sherry Hugh, with everything that she's covering and writing, Gigi Johnson as well.
Nice. That's a solid list. That's a solid crew.
Yeah, and I think it's getting to the point that that I love that. I think the pandemic has helped with it significantly too, to bring us all together. I think that community is getting smaller and smaller of the people that are really doing work in creative industries and wanting to support each other. And those listed are definitely at the top of that list.
If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, I love the very serious stare there too.
My favorite question.
Oh man, I should have watched some of these other episodes. If it's something that you ask regularly,
I ask everybody.
It shows my lack of preparation.
It's usually like the last question though, and some of these episodes run long, so I don't blame you.
Yeah. I don't. You know what? I would say probably to be able to freeze time. It's that is the one thing that I have the hardest time with is there's just so much that I want to do, and time flies by, and all of a sudden it's 5 years, and there's so many things that I know I can do, know I want to do,
and you still got those goals from
2012. Yeah, we're not talking about that.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. That would be
freeze time. I like it. The answers have been all over the place, so that's a good one. That's a good one for sure. How's the best way to reach out to you if somebody has any questions or they want to get a hold of you?
So all of our the whole team's contact info is listed on 2112's website, 2112inc.com. LinkedIn is great. Email is on there, on both. Find me on Slack.
Just don't expect a response.
No, you'll find me there. Yeah,
you'll find him there. Yeah,
that's the worst place to get a hold of me. A good place to potentially find me. No, yeah, email's great. The work email, through LinkedIn, it goes right to my Gmail. I'm checking constantly, and we'll get back to you.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. It's been fun getting to know you a little bit more, your backstory, and how you got to where you are. I would like to thank our sponsors at Insperity for allowing this to happen, making it work. And if you know anybody in the community that is interesting, that's doing great work, we're always inspired by those that are doing incredible work and continuing to push what's possible for the media tech economy. Thanks for joining us another week on Community Spotlight, and we'll see you next week, folks. Cheers.